Uh, I'll be back in a second, but right now I want to explain to talk about the QR code here. We ordered, just so you know, about 100 more programs than we normally order because this is the biggest ever Lemon Project Symposium between in-person and online. And so we only have enough programs, as it turns out, for pre-registered people. And so I know some of you, if you have your phones, you can find the program at this QR code. If not, we're hoping that you will share at the tables, okay? And I will be back for a formal welcome in just a few moments. Hey. Good morning, and I'm gonna go ahead and get started. I understand that some people in the back of the room didn't hear me before. So those of you up here, I'm probably gonna sound like I'm yelling, but hopefully people will hear me this time. I'll try to be closer to the mic. Okay, so good morning. My name is Jody Allen, and I get to be the Robert Francis Ings, director of the Lemon Project, A Journey of Reconciliation. I'm here to welcome you to our 13th annual symposium, At the Root, Exploring Black Life, History, and Culture. As I alluded to earlier, this is our largest ever. We have over 200 people registered, 250 people registered between today and tomorrow, and 361 people registered virtually. So, yeah. So, We also had our largest number of proposals this year, and they were all of the proposals were just amazing. And it is our great belief and hope that you will find your time this weekend well spent. We will learn from a wide variety of people representing a wide range of community and institutional programs at a time when it is becoming increasingly evident that acquiring knowledge about African American history is becoming more and more challenging. Because of this, it is clear that establishing alternative venues to obtain this history is vital. That said, it is imperative that you share with your community what you learned this weekend. Now I want to take just a few minutes to recognize and thank the amazing, amazing Lemon Project team. And first, I want to start with all the people who are volunteering today here, who have helped you get your packets, who will be helping in the individual rooms. They're doing this on a Friday and then tomorrow, Saturday morning, with just our undying love and gratitude, okay? Also, next I want to recognize our 3 PhDs in training, who all 3 are leaving us after this year. But Derek, Vory, Richard, please stand up, y'all. Caroline Watson, Sydney Rose McCall. Okay. Again, thank you very much. Okay. Next, I don't think Dawn is in the room, but Dawn Morris is our fiscal and program coordinator. Okay, and she's out. May have seen her helping to check people in. Next, we have Dr. Jawan Johnson, who is Mr. Genealogy. He came in, established our genealogy initiative that I know many of you in this room have taken advantage of. And this next person is in many ways how and why we're here, how we got here. This is Dr. Sarah Thomas, the Associate Director of the Lemon Project. Sarah, you have to stand up too. Sarah, many of you, if you are a panelist, a moderator, coordinator, Sarah you've been emailing back and forth with Sarah since September or October. Sarah has coordinated, made sure we have our packets, made sure we have food, a space, everything. And so Sarah, I don't often get to say this, but I want to say it publicly. Thank you so much. We really, really appreciate you. I appreciate the entire Lemon Project team. When it started 13 years ago, there was me and a graduate student. And we have grown, and these folks that I just introduced to you are amazing. As I said before, I can't say enough, and I appreciate all of you. Thank you very much. Let's see. Now it is my pleasure to introduce to you Provost Peggy Agoras, who will welcome you on behalf of the College of William and Mary. Thank you.
Thank you, Jody. Thank you all for being here. I will be very brief because you are in for a treat with our speaker today, and I don't want to take any minutes away from the wonderful talk you're going to hear in a few minutes. But I want to really, spend a few minutes to kind of think a little bit of what we are here to do and how important this is for our university. The theme this year is, as you very well know, At the Root, Exploring Black Life, History, and Culture. And this is the way we kind of of go back to connecting with the goals of our first Lemon Project Symposium in, I think it was 2011, that was designed in a way that reflects what we are happy to say we are achieving today, which is to bring together our community, students, faculty, members of the community at large, to discuss things that are really connected to our past. And I say our with a little bit of trepidation because I didn't grow up in this country. And a lot of things that I'm learning about the history, good and bad, I'm learning as an adult, which gives me a different perspective and allows me to not only appreciate the pain and the difference that it made in so many lives, but also feel the need to do better and do it fast. So looking at the past and the way that this history that we are all familiar with continues to shape the relationships between African Americans and our university in particular. Today and tomorrow, the Lemon Project Spring Symposium will be centered at the local Black histories that we want to not only be aware of, but explore, understand, and honor, and how they influence our thinking and our actions as we consider questions like, in what ways are African American communities taking charge and telling fuller narratives of life, history, and culture? And in what ways can universities support communities in this important work, which is where we come in, our university. We have a very big, thriving, hybrid gathering, people present here, people remotely. We have an opportunity to hear from various perspectives, descendant communities, scholars, family historians, genealogists, and academics, just to name a few of the people who will be taking part in this symposium. So the goals, which you know, but I want to really reemphasize just because it really gives context to what we are expected to do here, is to reflect on what's happening in African American communities and consider the ways these communities are transforming narratives. We want to explore and actually understand the ways that colleges and universities work with African American communities. And of course, none of these things is really fulfilled unless we contribute to the strategies and best practices that institutions adopt when dealing with their involvement in slavery and its legacies. William and Mary is very glad to offer this event, both in person and virtually, as we mentioned, because we want to reach as wide an audience as possible, both here in Williamsburg and beyond. And as I mentioned before, our keynote speaker today is a person that I thoroughly enjoy listening to, not only because of the substance of what he says, but how he says it and how everything he says comes from here and here, not like me here. So this is one thing that as I mentioned, I'm looking forward to. For those of you that do not know enough about Judge John Charles Thomas, he is the first Black justice appointed to the Supreme Court of Virginia. And of course, he is very connected to the university. He served long years as on the Board of Visitors of William and Mary. So the Lemon Project, let me give you a little bit of background here I'm sure that you are aware, but it's always grounding for me to remember how we started. Again, not taking any credit for this, I wasn't here, but I really am very enthusiastic about this work. So the Lemon Project started in 2009 by a resolution by the Board of Visitors. There was a subsequent resolution in 2018 where the board expressed its thorough appreciation for the Lemon Project team and supported the continuation of the work. which for those of you who are familiar with boards and how they do things and how they think of things, you can understand two such resolutions are not an easy thing to achieve, and demonstrates the significance that even our board, which is overseeing a lot of the things that we do as a university, places on the Lemon Project. The second institutionally funded project of its kind in the country, the Lemon Project, is a wonderful demonstration of the necessity and the rewards that we get from this work. And I'm very proud to say that it is supported by the Office of the Provost. So thank you. The Lemon Project serves as a model for other higher education institutions, and we hear it very frequently. And is extremely important for the university, as its placement in the Provost's office, I hope, demonstrates. The Lemon Project team, led by Professor Jody Allen, and everybody that you heard about today, has helped us actually do better and further our journey towards reconciliation and healing. I would like to also take the time to thank, from my side, the members of the William and Mary community and the members of Williamsburg and Hampton Roads communities for their continued support. We won't be able to make progress unless we are together. And together we can break down walls while building bridges between William and Mary and the people who live in the communities around us. You've seen how much emphasis William and Mary places on belonging. It's one of our core values. I actually want to emphasize that personally, I feel the sense of belonging at William and Mary, even though I have been with the university for 3.5 years, and my life's history is a little different than the average American life. But I found the sense of belonging. I hope you feel the same, because we want all of you to feel the sense of belonging, and I want to emphasize that. So thank you for being here today, and enjoy the rest of the symposium. Thank you.
Thank you, Provost Agoras. It is now my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker of the day, the Honorable John Charles Thomas. Judge Thomas is a retired justice of the Supreme Court of Virginia and a retired senior partner of the law firm of Hunton Andrews Kurth. He's a native of Norfolk, Virginia, and attended segregated public schools in that city until 1965, when the state of Virginia's so-called freedom of choice school desegregation plan was enacted. He finished Maury High School as an honor student and entered the University of Virginia in September of 1968 as one of 3 African-American students in a class of 1,400. At that time, the university was still all male too. Judge Thomas finished at UVA in 1972, earning a BA with distinction. He next enrolled at the UVA Law School, which he finished in 1975. In August of 75, he became the first African-American lawyer hired by formerly all-white Richmond law firm Hunton, Williams, Gay, and Gibson. He started work at the firm as a public utilities lawyer as part of the group of lawyers representing the state's largest power company. Later, Thomas became a lawyer in the firm's litigation section, where he represented major corporations in trial court and on appeal. On April 1st, 1982, Thomas became a partner at Hunton and Williams, making him the first African-American lawyer in American history, not Virginia history, in American history to go up the line from associate to partner at a formerly all-white Southern law firm. On April 11th, 1983, Then Governor Charles Robb appointed Thomas to the Supreme Court of Virginia, thus making him the first African-American, and at 32 years old, the youngest to be appointed to that position. In late 1989, due to medical problems, he had to leave the court, and in November 89, he returned to the Hunton law firm as the chief appellate practice, part of the chief appellate practice group. He remained with the firm until he retired in 2021. Judge Thomas has served on the board of directors for the executive committee of the American Arbitration Association. And since 2004, he has been the judge of the Court of Arbitration for Sport in Lausanne, Switzerland, which rules violations of the World Anti-Doping Code for all Olympic sports, for the Tour de France, and for FIFA. Thomas served on the Board of Visitors at the College of William and Mary from 2006 to 2017. He has lectured at the interim University Center of Dubrovnik, Croatia, on enforcing interim arbitral awards under the New York Convention. He has twice delivered the constitutional law lecture to firsties at West Point, and he has delivered the first year lectures at UVA and here at William and Mary. He has taught appellate advocacy at the University of Virginia Law School. And in 2019, he was a jurist in residence for Gonzaga Law School, Spokane, Washington. Thomas is an honorary trustee of the Thomas Jefferson Foundation that owns and operates Monticello. And he is the author of Poetic Justice, which came out in October 22, which is his memoir. Okay, so you see that we're about to hear from a man of many firsts, a man who has done a lot, a role model to all of us, I believe, and certainly to me. And I'm also proud to call him my friend, Judge Thomas.
Thank you so much, Jody, for the wonderful introduction and all the work you and your team have done to put together this effort, which has been going on for many years now. And thank you so much from our provost, Peggy Agoras, for her kind remarks. This is a magnificent thing that we are participating in today. It's a wonderful joy to get up in the morning and to begin working on a project that reaches so deep into the history of the United States of America, and which is about revealing truth. That's what we're trying to do. We're almost forensic historians. Everybody in this room, I don't care what your discipline may be, what we are trying to do in this moment is to go back and recover the history that has been lost of people that are so much intertwined in the building of America. Everybody doesn't understand the truth, and because they don't understand the truth, they can proceed today on the basis of lies which get us nowhere. A long time ago, people asked Dr. King, how long do we have to suffer? And of course, he said, not long. And one of the reasons he said not long is because he said, because no lie can live forever. And so no lie about the origins of America, about the people who are important to the creation of the nation can live forever. And he said, because truth crushed to earth will rise again. And that's what we are about the business of doing here. But he also had a very long statement about the nature of history and the nature of truth from his book, where do we go from here? Some of you may remember some of these words because he used them in different places, but he said, many of the ugly pages of American history have been obscured and forgotten. A society is always eager to cover misdeeds with a cloak of forgetfulness, but no society can fully repress an ugly past when the ravages persist into the present. America owes a debt of justice which it has only begun to pay. If it loses the will to finish or slackens in its determination, history will recall its crimes, and the country that would be great will lack the most indispensable element of greatness, which is justice. And so, in order to get America back on track, in order to get our country thinking the right way and understanding fully what we are, this multidisciplinary gathering has come to fore. And so we sit here today with scholars in different fields, with paleontologists and anthropologists and sociologists and English professors, but also with artists and poets and musicians, because we intend to draw on every possible discipline to do something that some people might think is mission impossible, and that is to recover the full and complete history of Black people in America. Now, the Lemon Project, of course, is focused on Black folks at William and Mary, but that's not the whole story. And because the whole world is interconnected, and because the Black people who are at William and Mary are still part of the history of Virginia and still part of the history of the United States, you can't isolate it to make it just about William and Mary. The story might focus here, the story might start here, but the story is bigger than just the effort that we're talking about here today. This is an enormous effort. And in order to make this happen, we are going to talk about how far we have come by faith. We're going to talk about lynchings and the Freedom Trail. We're going to talk about family gatherings in history. We're going to talk about the tangled roots of whites and Blacks together and how you find the thread that linked us and how you pull that thread and unravel that thread and understand the ways that we are connected. We're going to talk about the role of the African American church and the documentary history of our people. We are going to examine Black people as they were enslaved and free. What work did they do? What jobs did they have? We're going to think about the past and reflect on the future. We are even going to hear from the talking drums of the Elegba folklore ensemble. We're going to consider the neighborhoods that were displaced by the creation of colonial Williamsburg. We're going to consider neighborhoods that were torn apart by what they call progress, like a new highway or a new ramp or new shopping center. We're going to talk about listening to our elders at the family gatherings and understanding the stories that they're telling us. We're even going to look at the clothes and shoes that people wore in the 18th century to figure out what jobs they had and what things that they were doing. We are going to contemplate the role of truth in the effort to reconcile our history. We're going to look at public education and what it can do to preserve history in our culture. We're going to talk about mending the fork in the road, how we can bring ourselves back together as one community, white and Black together, despite the divisions that have occurred over time. We're going to analyze how universities can be partners with communities, as they've done in Harrisonburg, at James Madison, at the Lucy Sims School, where scholars and students have gone out into the community and focused on the school that they made Black people go to and made it a center of understanding and a center of coming together. We're going to focus on the role of the Black church as a social, cultural, and political engine. We're going to look at the lynchings that have occurred and the communities that were destroyed by violence and all of the other things that were underhanded and dirty and wrong in the lives of our people. We're going to discuss how universities must play a role in truth telling. We're going to understand how this place and other colleges and universities can work with its students and teach them how to be young historians, even undergraduate historians, as they go home and collect the histories of their families. We're going to talk about the very architecture of the Black church. You will remember at the marches, the civil rights marches, they almost always started and ended at a church. They almost always gathered at a church to hold hands and pray. And then when they were beaten and broken, they almost always came back to a Black church for their wounds to be salved and healed. We are going to discuss the architecture of a place of repose for our people. We're going to talk about the Black cemeteries and the monuments in the Black cemeteries, and how the Black cemeteries and the plaques in the Black cemeteries and the inscriptions in the Black cemeteries were counters to the Confederate statues that were put up in the middles of cities. We're going to see the different conversation that is going on. We're going to talk about the Society of Friends of African American Histories and their efforts to capture history. We're going to talk about the project at the Library of Virginia to get the untold story. We're going to look at everything that we can. We're going to understand that every photo in a drawer, every letter in a box, every DNA story that we can discover, every poem that grandma whispered in your ear, every story that our mothers and fathers told us, every hymn that they sang in church, somewhere inside of it is hidden a message about who we are and what we needed to be and where we came from and where we can go. And we are going to try to make this group and then others from this group understand just how good we can be when we pull on all of the resources that we have. Just how wonderful it might be for every voice in America to be heard. Just how good America might become when they understand that the whole nation is involved in making this what we ought to be in America, a more perfect union. And then we're going to think about words even of the poet. Longfellow said, "Tell me not in mournful numbers, life is but an empty dream, for the soul is dead that slumbers, and things are not what they seem. Life is real. Life is earnest, and the grave is not its goal. Dust thou art to dust returneth was not spoken of the soul. Not enjoyment and not sorrow is our destined ender way, but to act that each tomorrow finds us further than today. Art is long and time is fleeting, and our hearts, though stout and brave, still like muffled drums are beating funeral marches to the grave. In the world's broad field of battle, in the bivouac of life, be not like dumb driven cattle, be a hero in the strife. Trust no future, however pleasant. Let the dead past bury its dead. Act in the living present, heart within and God o'erhead. Lives of great ones all remind us we can make our lives sublime, and departing leave behind us footprints on the sands of time. Footprints that perhaps another sailing o'er life's solemn main, a forlorn or shipwrecked shipwrecked brother, seeing she'll take heart again. Let us then be up and doing with a heart for any fate, still achieving, still pursuing. Learn to labor and to wait. The footprints on the sands of time in the lives of Black people in America have been eroded by the waters of history, and they have to be reclaimed. We are on a mission today that's just like going to the bottom of the ocean to find the Titanic and see what was on it. And when we think about the brutal history of slavery in America and the Atlantic slave trade, I always wonder, if you drain the ocean, will you see the bones of my people stretching all the way from Africa to right here in Virginia in 1619? Is that what it's going to look like? But what we're saying is, in all that mission, in all the truth that we hope to uncover, we mean to make a difference. Because I have in my mind the idea that people, when they see God, they're going to say, well, Lord, we prayed for somebody to come and cure cancer. We prayed for somebody who could lead us out of the problems that we're in. And I think the Lord is going to say, but I sent it. That baby was on that second boat. That baby was thrown overboard because of hatred. I sent him. It was you who destroyed all the good that I sent into the world. And so now it's our mission to recover. And so we can understand all that we are and all that we can be. God bless you. I don't have a 90-minute speech. I just got a little bit to say, but I hope it makes a difference in your lives. Thank you so much. I'm not a historian. Jody says I'm supposed to take questions. I have no idea what questions I can answer in here, but if anybody has a question, I'll try to answer a question. Anybody?
Any questions? I have a microphone too. Can one of y'all help me? Thank you so much, Judge Thomas. I knew it would be powerful. Oh, wait a minute. They're just getting warmed up.
Oh, they're getting what?
You know, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe there any questions or any comments? Oh, okay. Jawan? Oh, well, I'll go.
I see that you are a trustee of the Thomas Jefferson Foundation and you work with them at Monticello. Can you address Sally Hemings and how that is going to be addressed?
Yeah. Well, that's part of the search for truth, isn't it? And that's part of what we're talking about here. That was the use of DNA. That was being able to find, you know, in the male line, I forget which chromosome it is, but if you're in the male line, the males have the same chromosome. And so though Jefferson didn't have children himself, there were others in the Jefferson male line that we were able to use to determine whether a child through Sally Hemings had the Jefferson chromosome in it. And of course, that turned out to be true. And we did stand up and we admitted it and we said so. And so that's what we're talking about, isn't it? Don't run from history. Go on and tell the truth. Make it so people understand how things really are. And so I think that's an example of what we're trying to do here today. I don't know what truth we will talk about from the discoveries that we make here, but there probably will be some that we have to write about. I mean, right now, what are we changing the names of buildings? We're taking down statues that shouldn't honor people because they didn't do things that were honorable. So there you have it. But that's part of this whole mission.
Yes, sir. Do you have copies of your book available on sale today?
They're on Amazon, but I don't have it today. I didn't come here to sell books today. We came here to do history today, but you can see it on that. It's called The Poetic Justice. Now you got to say The Poetic Justice, John Charles Thomas. Other than that, you're gonna get that movie by Michael Jackson. Sister.
Yeah, and I highly recommend it. It's an amazing, he has an amazing, amazing story.
Good morning. I came to UVA 7 years after you finished undergrad. Can you talk just a little bit about your experience at UVA?
Well, you know what? I never talk about UVA while I'm at William and Mary. I'm sorry. It's one of them things you just don't do. I do talk about it in the book, really. But when I'm here, I have on green and gold, and I sing to him.
Oh. Excuse me. Oh, that's okay. I need that.
Wonderful, wonderful talk. I really enjoyed it. I'm from South Carolina. Your contemporary graduated in 1968 from a segregated school. Can you give me your thoughts looking back on history? Because we never really was taught history in high school, never really was taught history in college. Basically, you're learning history, as you say, as an adult. What do you think had transformed this period where, you know, we were Black Power, we were coming up, we were marching, Dr. King. When you look back, where do you see the progress and where do we stop? Now we're fighting the same battles we fought at 18 that we fighting at 72.
My first reaction is something that I think all of us heard John Lewis, the wonderful John Lewis, talk about. Did y'all ever hear him say that if you have walked in my shoes, and he was on the Pettus Bridge and beaten so viciously, he says you can see that the world is better today than it was when we started. And I'm pretty sure of that. I mean, I'm pretty sure of we didn't have a room that looked like this. There wouldn't have been a gathering of blacks and whites together just sitting here without somebody calling the police to throw the colored people out and all that. We just didn't live the way we do right now. And so we have gotten used to the way it is, and we forget just how broken and fractured and divided things were. And so I am pretty sure, I'm certain, that the nature of our nation is better than it was when I started out. I'm born in 1950, prior to Brown versus Board, and the schools were segregated, as most of us know, deep into the 60s. Even though the Brown decision was 54, the implementation decision wasn't until 65. And so even into the 70s, some of the school systems were still segregated. And so we had to fight these horrible fights, and yet, but along the way, now I get sent to white school in 65, I go to Maury. I actually was elected the representative from my homeroom to the student government. Now, that was kind of like Barack a long time ago. I'm the only colored kid in class, but they say, anybody want to be on student council? And I go, yes. And next thing I know, I'm on student council. And so some things that look like a big deal. Now, my mama thought that was a big deal, but I didn't. It was just kind of another little job I had at the school. But we've made some changes. We've gotten a little bit better, but still there's hatred and there's misunderstanding and there's wrong and so forth. And we just can't appreciate that as the Human Genome Project has taught us, and here's something I just can't get out of my head. Y'all look this up now. Y'all check me. What you fact check the papers. Y'all look me up. But I read in a book on all of the human genome that, oddly enough, the absolute least difference among all humans on Earth is the color of their skin. There is no smaller difference among humans to this point. It takes more genetic coding to determine your hairline than it does to determine the color of your skin. It takes more genetic coding to determine the shape of your earlobe than it does to determine the color of your skin. And so if we were being logical about stuff, we would discriminate on the basis of hairlines. You got that ugly ass hairline, get your ass over there. But we discriminate on the least difference among people. It's kind of like God playing a joke, like, I'm gonna make y'all think this is the big difference when it's not. And it never has been. Apparently from the beginning of time, that has never been the biggest difference among people, and yet it's the one that we kill over and blow up schools over and blow up churches over. Isn't that a horror? That's the least difference, but we're learning more now. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
And I think as a community, we need to make sure we're paying attention to our school boards. Can you talk a little bit about, I mean, we've got this wonderful history and it's getting erased in
Yeah,
a way,
yeah.
so.
I am certain that if anybody thinks that the role of the schools is to teach things so that no student is uncomfortable, that we are headed in the wrong place. I mean, that is just bizarre. You know, but I mean, just think, even not at school, I'm talking about, at home, your grandmama told you stuff all the time made you uncomfortable. Man, made you uncomfortable to the point of getting a whipping. And so the idea that everything that you learn in school is going to make you happy sounds just out of this world. I can't believe it. And I never saw any of my teachers, white or black, do that. Now, I can say that the black teachers in my time, now remember, this is largely the segregated schools, they taught us in a particular way because they were part of what we were trying to do. Anybody had to teach us to say, it's your job to change the world. When you leave here, you are going to have to change the world. And nobody is going to give you a break. Nobody is going to help. That's the upraising that I had at the black schools. I'm talking about at Liberty Park Elementary School, Jaycox Junior High School, Lindenwood Elementary School for a minute or so. That's what them teachers were telling us. They were like, and you better be able to stand and deliver. And so those were the days you had to go to the blackboard and you had to diagram the sentence and you had to stand up and you had to say 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to, if you couldn't say that, you got a whipping. Anyhow, but I mean, the teaching is not, I guess it ain't gonna be like that no more. Because we actually thought we thought them teachers were halfway out there mad. They spank you, put you in the corner, then call your mama.
Judge
We
Thomas,
we
have
have
a
some-
question
oh,
from a
go
virtual
ahead.
participant. Brandon Lee asks you, what legal opportunities do you believe displaced descendants, former enslaved and otherwise, have in obtaining reparations, and how this can be attacked locally and at state and at the national level?
Well, there's people talk about reparations and stuff. In equity, in Virginia for a long time, there was a division between law and equity. And equity is the rulings that deal with fairness and justice and morality. There is a thing called a constructive trust. And here's the theory of the constructive trust. If somebody stole your property, stole your money, and then took your money and bought a building with it and got rich off of your money, when equity found out that you had your resources taken from you and put somewhere else, equity would step in and they would rule against the person who had done you wrong, and they would impose what is called a constructive trust on all of the ill-gotten gains. In other words, they would take it back from the person that stole it from you and give it back to you. And so basically, it already exists in the law and in equity, this idea of what you do when somebody has taken something wrongfully from you. I believe that the labor of Black people was stolen from over the years. I mean, there's a book called The Half Has Not Been Told. Anybody read that book about just how much slavery was the engine for all of the money in America? It wasn't just the South. It was the shipbuilders. It was the bankers. It was the textile workers. It was every single part of America benefited from the stolen labor of Black people in America. And so there seems to me to be a fair argument for the use of equity and the imposition of a constructive trust over the ill-gotten gains. Anybody else?
Are there any more questions online? Okay.
All right.
Okay. Well, thank you.
I'm gonna sit down and drink my coffee.
Thank you so much, Judge Thomas. Yeah. I think that was absolutely worth our time this morning to hear him and to learn about that legal situation related to reparations. I had never heard of that. So it's always good to have a lawyer in the family, right? Okay. We're going to, what's the next 10 o'clock? 10:30? Okay. So we have a break. We have a break here. So please feel free to go out, get something else to eat, stretch your legs, bombard Judge Thomas a little bit more. And thank you. And we'll start back up at 10:30. Thank you.
That's unbelievable.